Hey guys, welcome back to Vince-Vell Custom. So today we're going to do a little bit of advanced magnetizing statue parts into a custom statue. I'm always trying to figure out new ways and easier ways to, do my customs, whether it's adding different hands, arms, legs, bases, I don't know. So I'm always trying different things, and I used to do magnetizing one way, but I found that it's still pretty difficult and takes some hard time. But I kind of came up with a new way that's a couple extra steps, but it makes life a lot easier for me. And it really makes the keying and magnetizing really, really secure. So we'll break down everything that I'm doing. Just to give you an idea, this is a Sideshow premium format Catwoman that I'm customizing into another female. And those two hands right there are from a Sideshow premium format Spider-Woman. So I'm using this hands on this statue because I had extra ones from a previous custom. And I wanted to use these hands because of what I'm doing. So break down what you pretty much need. First off is you need key stock, and key stock is square metal rods. As you can see, you can get this at hardware stores or eBay, but you want to find steel key stock. You don't want zinc because you got to be careful because I have all these different magnets because I'm always picking up different magnets and stuff. So your zinc is not going to magnetize, and you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of zinc ones and all of a sudden you magnets and you're wondering why nothing's magnetizing. You want to make sure you get steel because steel magnetizes, as you can see. So you always want to make sure you pick up your steel key stock. Key stock is basically a metal square rod that goes into your door handles and locks on doors. It's a square metal rod, so a lot of locksmiths and stuff, what they can do is they can buy key stock, and then what they do is they can cut it down if they have to redo your locks or whatever. I might be used for other stuff, but this is kind of what I found out. And then you need hollow brass rods, and a K&S company. You can get this at hardware stores. You can get on eBay. It's metal rods, brass metal rods that are hollow. You want to make sure you find the one that's in scale with the metal rod you find. So you can get these at different sizes. Like this right here is, let's see, I'm not really sure the size on this. Oh, here it is. It's 1/8 by 1 foot. And you got to make sure you find the brass rod that fits into it. So as you can see, this goes in there nice and tight. So you got this piece goes in, works out perfect. But if I was to put it in this one's too big and it wobbles, as you can see. So you want to make sure you get the right stuff. So it's always good if you were going to pick up a couple, you pick up a couple different sizes of this, you pick up a couple different sizes of this, and you find the ones that go mix and match. So once you get all your tools ready, it's just a matter of making the holes and starting everything. So you can see this is kind of started already, but I'm going to break it down how what I do. So first things first, the best thing to do is I cut my square metal rod. Well, I'll go into the garage in a second and I'll show you how I cut the stuff. But you make your square metal rod, and then you make sure that that is going into the statue with no problem. So this has the hole in here already, and as you can see, whichever way I do it, it'll work out. So that's going to work out fine. Next step is, what we do is you cut a piece of this hollow brass tubing and you put it over the piece till the metal piece is kind of showing, as you can see. And then the next step is you take your magnet and you put it on there like that. So the idea is once this metal piece, brass rod and magnet is glued in, you have a nice piece that goes in and out and that connects. So you don't have to worry about trying to push in aves and wait a couple hours and then push in aves again. You pretty much have the whole mechanism there. Now this piece is kind of long, but I needed extra magnet because I wanted to make sure this is tough. And then once you get that done, you want to make sure that the piece is going to fit in there correctly. So you don't want to do all this work and then try to glue it in and you realize you didn't drill the hole far enough or wide enough. So you want to make sure you got some room, wiggle room like this, and I'll show you why in a second. So same thing with this one here. As you can see, I did the same thing with this hand as well. Let's see, hold on, kind of. So as you can kind of see, we have this little piece. So when you put this piece in here with the Aves or Magic Sculpt, it takes overnight and a couple hours for that to set. Then the next day, I cut this piece and everything like this. And then we make sure that when I put this hand in here, we have room. We got to make sure I make sure that it's enough room because I got to add stuff around it. So I'm gonna go into the garage right now. I'll show you how I cut the brass metal rods and stuff, and then we'll come back and I'll start the next steps. Like I said, this is kind of a little bit of a longer process, but in the end, it makes life a lot easier and it makes it really well secured and just better. So let's go in the garage. I'll show you how I cut the stuff and we'll come back. Alright, so here is the brass rod, and what I did, as you can see, is I made a little red marker where I need to cut it. Now when you put it into a vice grip, you want to put it at the edge where you're going to be using your tool, and you don't want to crush this because you can crush and really screw up your square piece. So you want to just make it tight enough where it's snug and that it's not going to wobble, but that you're not crushing it. And then all you need after that is a hacksaw with a metal file, a metal saw piece. You don't want to get like one of these because this seesaw is just for more like, you know, resin or wood. This is not going to cut this too well and it's going to work. You want something stronger like this. And so let's see if I can do this without making a camera. You want to just bring it down. You don't want to try to jab it because then you're like you're pushing it back and forth. So just bring it down. See, it's kind of a little bit wobbly, so I'm tightening a little bit more. And you just bring it down like this. Just go 1, and you just keep doing it. See, if you try to jab it up with the teeth, you're kind of grabbing it and you might start warping it. So just keep bringing it down. And then you can kind of do that, and then it comes right off. So then you have your piece like this. So you got to be careful though, because you can warp it. You know, it might look a little warped, but it's pretty good. So let's go over to the sander and I'll kind of start sanding it down. Alright, so I'm at my sander, and as you can see, the piece is kind of messed up there, so the piece of metal won't go in, but the piece of metal will go in this way because it's flat, but it still stops at the end, as you can kind of see. So what you want to do is you can take just a piece of pliers, and then you can turn this on. Make sure you have your goggles and everything. And then once it's kind of heated up and it's got that little smudge off the side, now I'm using the zinc piece, but it's fine. Just want to make sure that it's working, and then it goes in and out. So, and be careful because you do have like little pieces around the sides, as you can kind of see, that could cut you. But now we can go all the way through the piece, and it works. And if you have anything, little extra pieces, what you could do is you grab some sandpaper, and you could kind of pull it off, and then that's how you cut your pieces. This one's a little tight because this is kind of bent, but at the tip. But see, as it works pretty good now. Sorry, trying to get in here without the blurring. So there you go. That's how you kind of cut it. Like I said, you just got to be careful and take your time, and not try to bend it and warp it, because then you're just wasting your brass rod. All right, so we'll go back in there and we'll start working out the rest of it. Okay, we're on to our next step, and the next step is get some Magic Sculpt, which is perfect for this. You don't need a lot. This is actually more than what I need, but I'm working on some other stuff anyway. So as far as putting the metal rod into the hand, that's like a one-night session. You drill your hole, you cut the hand, and you attach a piece of metal in there and you let that sit overnight. Give that some time to really cure. Then the next day, cutting your metal rods takes, I don't know, probably what, 15 minutes at most. And then this next step is this thing you want to set overnight, and then you come back to it the next day. Or you could do it early in the morning and then maybe come back at night. It kind of works out. So take some Magic Sculpt, thin it out pretty well. You don't need to, this part isn't really super thick. You don't need to go crazy with this. You know, like paper thin almost, as you kind of see. And what I like to do is I kind of just wrap it around these two. So the idea is you're connecting these two. Now I tried gluing them, and glue just doesn't seem to work that well, because when I go into the next steps, the glue sometimes snaps and breaks because it doesn't bond to the metal that well. But this kind of bonds a little bit better, and it just works out easier. So just kind of wrap it around, get some water. Now you might have to kind of sand this down a little bit the next day, but it's not that big of a deal. But these bonds pretty well, and it's kind of like a really nice secured key piece made. Now, at this step is once I'm done with this, when you're going to put this into the hand, you know, the arm, the wrist area, or whatever kind of area you're putting it in, you don't want it to be super smooth, because when you put it in with either Magic Sculpt or glue, you could kind of pull it out. You want this to have like teeth to grab, and it's kind of like scoring. So you can use a piece of metal, but it's going to connect to the magnet, you know, and you don't really want to use a big piece. But what you could do is, hold on, this piece is coming loose. So what you could do is you kind of just throw some scores in here, like this. And this is like an old trick I learned back in the day when I used to take art class in high school. And you know, when you're ever working with old clays and doing pottery, you score your piece when you're going to add clay the next day, or after you baked it and you're going to bake more, and it's kind of just adding teeth to it, so it kind of grabs. But I mean, I'm going to sand this down a little bit too, but this, we're just kind of getting all this. You can use your fingernail if you wanted to, I guess. If you don't want to use a piece of metal or a piece of wood, just to give it some scoring. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer so you can kind of see what I did. Okay, so then what I do is I do this with the next hand, and then I'll come back tomorrow once it's all done, and we start attaching these pieces into the statue, and then that's it. You have your magnetized pieces. Like I said, it's a little bit extra steps, more tools involved, but it actually makes your life easier than what I used to do in the beginning. At least my life easier, and I kind of like this better. The only problem is I would like to do like bigger key type stuff with metal, and I haven't been able to find them, like bigger square pieces and everything. But I'm, you know, working on that and stuff. So I'm gonna do this hand, and then we'll come back later, you know, tomorrow, and we'll start adding them into the statue, and it just gives you guys an idea how we run it.